Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Players Own YouTube channel. It's been a week away, a week of reset during the international break, but we are back for the Premier League prediction show. And one of the favourites here on the channel, and I appreciate all you guys and all the support you show these videos. Another big week of action of the North London derby, a big bounce back game required for Manchester United, and how do Everton respond after that capitulation 2 weeks ago? A lot to come this weekend, and very, very interesting games throughout the weekend. Looking at our point system, we came into match week 3 on 13 points, added 5 more, so not that great. We've ended up with 18 points across the first 3 game weeks. That's 6 per weekend, so I want to be 7 or 8 and try and make myself sound a little bit smarter on these videos here. But we'll look to bounce back this weekend with a few more of our prediction points. If you're new to the channel wondering how the point system works, it's 3 points for the correct scoreline predicted, 1 point for the correct result predicted, and obviously 0 points for neither. So coming this weekend, looking to secure a few more 3-pointers and then boost that score up for the year. With that being said, ladies and gents, let's get straight now into our predictions. Our first game is a massive one for both clubs. We're down the south coast. Southampton play Manchester United. Southampton yet to get a point this season in the Premier League and have really struggled defensively. Saw that last time out on their 3-1 loss to Brentford, conceding goals in clumps. And we've seen a lot this season, problems playing out from the back. So they're being very, very easy to get at because they almost are their worst enemies in many regards. They've also struggled to create a lot of chances. Even at home last time they played at home versus Nottingham Forest, they really lacked that creativity despite all the possession they had to create any clear-cut opportunities. So there's problems at both ends of the park for Southampton, especially going forward. Considering United, the form they're currently in, you want a team that can get at Manchester United. Saw what Liverpool did to them. I was actually coming off that 3-0 embarrassment at home to Liverpool. And defensively, it actually looks okay. It's more going forward in the midfield areas. There's no control of the game. We saw how easily Liverpool pieced apart Manchester United in the centre of the park. Big question marks. And does Manuel Ugarte start or does Casemiro start after an all-time poor performance in that game versus Liverpool? There's a lot of questions about this side. A lot of pressure on Eric Ten Hag and Manchester United to bounce back here. And it's going to be a tough game. The reverse fixture 2 years ago, Eric Ten Hag was in a very similar spot off the back of a really shaky start to the season and got a hard-fought win away at Southampton to get that season kicked off. And he'll be hoping for a very similar thing here. But I think it's going to be a really, really ugly game. A game that's going to lack opportunities. Both teams not great in terms of creating chances for themselves and probably have shot themselves in the foot with the way they've played their football this season. With that being said, I'm going with the United scrappy 1-0 win. I think it's one of the worst games of the weekend. But United will have to go over the line, and they will get over the line for me with a 1-0 result. We stay on the south coast for our next game. Brighton take on Ipswich in what could be one of the most entertaining games on the weekend. We've seen how good Brighton have been, beating Manchester United, drawing at the Emirates, making most of that red card there for Declan Rice. But take nothing away from Brighton and their performance. They've started the season off fantastically under new manager Hertzler, and there's been a real want to use the centre of the park and be progressive and be on the front foot. It's a different Brighton what we're used to. They've got a lot of pace in the flanks like we're used to, but they're utilising the centre of the park more often than not. And I think what has been the key underlying feature that no one's really talked about is their defensive solidity. Veltman, Van Hecker, Verbruggen coming back into a goal, Lewis Dunk at the back. It's been a really established and settled back four. Something you couldn't say for Brighton last season, and they were very weak and conceded a lot of goals defensively. And I think as much as Hertzler wants to bring that progressive football and overlap players and send players forward and attack the centre of the park, they've actually been really, really good defensively as a building block for the rest of their football. So yet again, they're going to be it's going to be really, really important against the Ipswich team that likes to have a lot of the ball as well. Both teams will want to play, want to go out there and show what they've got. Obviously, Ipswich really impressive with that 1-1 draw versus Fulham. Fulham were far from impressive. Ipswich were probably the one team that you could see going on to win that game of football. So they showed they've got what it takes. They've competed with sides. They competed with Liverpool in the first 45 minutes. Played great versus Fulham throughout the full 90 and had some moments versus Man City. It's a bit more of a winnable game. Yes, it's difficult going away to Brighton, but they do have the ability to get something out of this game. I think it comes down to centre of the park there. Amari Hutchinson and the captain Morsey. If these guys can really dictate the pace of the game and control the centre and central areas, I think they can get a real big result here away from home. With that being said, though, I back Brighton to continue this great form. They've beat United at home last time out. I think they'll do a very similar thing here and beat Ipswich. It's going to be tight. It's going to be key moments will matter in this game here, but I've got Brighton coming out 3-1 victors for me. They have the enough quality with Welbeck and João Pedro up top to get the job done. We go to London for our next game. Crystal Palace take on Leicester City in what can be a very hard game to predict. I can see it going both ways here. Palace obviously coming off a really hard-fought 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge last time out. Made the most and rode their luck a little bit with Chelsea's poor finishing. But at the end of the day, it's another massive point and showed that grit and determination this Oliver Glasner Palace side has. The connection starting to build up top. Eberechi Eze, Daichi Kamada, Tariq Mitchell and Munoz pushing on and creating a real overwhelming threat up top. We still haven't seen Mateta really fire yet this season, so we want to see more from him. And I think the potential is there, though, with that sort of new front three in many regards, two central number 10s with Kamada and Eza right behind Mateta. It's just not fully clicking yet for Palace this season. The midfield looks good. The defence is shored up now that Gahey's staying. So there's positives there. I just think they need to get settled in this season and get underway. And I think this could be a good opportunity here versus the Leicester side that, yes, has been impressive, was very impressive versus Aston Villa. And again, one of those games where you would have thought they'd come out over the top and win that game despite how good Aston Villa played in the initial moments. They came good as the game went on. I think the wide areas, again, for them, Christensen, probably the player of the game in that game there, and also Abdul Fatawu as well. These guys running at defenders and causing danger in wide areas, that will probably be their threat. That'll be their danger to a Palace side that likes to throw the fullbacks on. But I think Leicester have to be worried about their own style of football because they like to get the ball, they like to play with a lot of possession. But if you give the ball away, that's when Palace are at their best, especially at Selhurst Park on the counter-attack. So it's going to be a bounce on how many numbers you throw forward, how much of the ball do you want to have, because if you do lose it, Palace love sitting in, nicking the ball back, using those creative players from deep and the wing-backs pushing on, and that's how they get out of position. So it's going to be a fine balance between who commits to their game style and who has to sort of sacrifice their game style for the good of the result in this one here. With that being said, I've got Palace at home just getting over the line for me, 2-1. It's going to be a tight, contested affair. I think Palace's quality up top will get them over the line in this game here. It's an all-London battle in the next game here. Fulham versus West Ham. Two teams that really haven't hit any real height so far this season. Fulham, for me, one of the underrated disappointing teams last time out versus Ipswich. Classic yo-yoing type Fulham performance. Showed some signs in key periods, but were poor throughout. And outside of Adama Traore's individual brilliance and the old Anthony Robertson run or Emile Smith-Rowe trying to do something on his own, it really looked flat and lacked a lot of creativity. I think there's still a lot of improvement to come from Fulham. I've said it across the last year and a half now, it feels like when the central striker at Fulham doesn't deliver goals or is a hold-up player or creates pressure through their runs and attempts on goal, Fulham really lack quality. I feel like they're quite flat. So I think Muniz has to lift his performances. Obviously not repetitive goals and but get more involved, be a presence in the box to allow the wide areas, Anthony Robertson and the like, and Adama Traore to use those wide flanks. Because if you've got someone central in the middle, you've got balls to cross into, you've got more space that these wide players can attack into. And I feel like it's so important that the Fulham central striker is involved in the game, causing problems. And I think Muniz has to lift his performances. When I look at West Ham, again, another team that's really subpar for me. Yes, it was Man City. Yes, they got torn apart. But all in all, it's been a really underwhelming start to the season. It looks like they continue to go back to that counter-attacking football. And it's what I sort of feared coming into the season. David Moyes was a counter-attacking manager, but Lopetegui is the same thing, but just not English. So he's also a counter-attacking manager. He's also someone that doesn't really thrive in terms of ball retention and possession and playing in tight areas. He has the ability to do that, but does his teams flourish? No. And I don't think this team is set up to do that. I think, once again, it'll be really important. Rodriguez, alongside Alvarez, or whether it be Thomas Suchek in the middle of the park, these players are very important for West Ham, winning the ball back and getting the team going forward, and then also getting on the end of balls on the edge of the area. But I think for this game to be won by West Ham, I'm looking for the wide players. Jared Bowen has to get more involved. Mohamed Kudus has to get more involved. These are the players that could define this game for me. Despite Fulham being a good home team, I think West Ham just go over the line 2-1. They start kicking into gear, and I think those sort of wide players and the Paquetas of the world start getting more involved, and West Ham get a massive win for me. Our next game is on Merseyside. It's Liverpool hosting Nottingham Forest. What can only be a really one-sided affair I see happening here. Liverpool are on fire to start the league season off, coming off the back of another impressive result, 3-0 at Old Trafford, smashing Manchester United, smashing your rivals, and doing it from minute one. They've looked really, really quick to start the season off. They've played in tight areas. I've talked about over and over again. Their one-touch football and the ability to play to the centre of the park and their orientation to be more centralised in terms of their attacking talent. Ryan Gravenberch, Dominic Szoboszlai have been fantastic to start the season off. There's been less requirement for the fullbacks to push on. And as such, the defence looks really, really solid as well. And again, another team which is underrated is their defensive acumen. They haven't conceded goals this season. They've been super tight at the back. They don't concede many chances either. And then when you do concede chances, you've got the great Alisson in goal as well. So defensively, they're a brick wall right now. They don't look like they're going to get past. Van Dijk at his best. McAllister and Gravenberch are breaking everything up in midfield areas. And then you can look up top. Mo Salah, Diogo Jota, and Luis Diaz is a dynamic front three. It's a mobile front three, a front three that can spin in behind and run in behind, but can also drop into feet and then dribble past defenders as well. They've got so many avenues to goal. I think at home they'll just keep working and working away. It's going to be a tough sort of open 20 to 25 minutes because we know Nottingham Forest will sit in. They look their best when they sit in and counter-attack. It's if they can find that first goal. Once they find that first goal, Liverpool, the floodgates will open. For Nottingham Forest, you've got to try and nick a goal, the first goal in the counter-attack. Use the great form of Chris Wood up top or the creativity of Anthony Elanga and also Morgan Gibbs-White on the counter-attack. But I think it's going to be a real one-way affair here. They come off the back of a 1-1 disappointing result to Wolves. And I think this one here, they've had some decent results with Bournemouth, Southampton start the season off as well. They've got some handy points, but this is a different level of opponent. I think they'll get blown out of the park for me. I've got Liverpool winning this game 4-0. I think the talent will be too much. Liverpool at Anfield as well. It's one of the hardest places to go. I just don't see Nottingham Forest having much luck in this game here. Our next game keeps us up north. It is Manchester City hosting Brentford. And unfortunately, another slam dunk for me as well. Man City are on fire to start the season off. They beat West Ham 3-1 last time out. Another Haaland hat-trick. He has 7 goals now to start the season off. We're seeing the best of Kevin De Bruyne. We're seeing the best of Bernardo Silva as well. I expect Rodri to come back either to start or come off the bench in some form in this game here as well. Great performances from Jeremy Doku to start the season off as well. It's just a really functional side right now. Rico Lewis has made that sort of right wing-back central midfield spot his own now. He's made that him. He's dominating games. Man City are dictating games to start to finish. And when we're used to them start the season off quite slowly, they've gone and just obliterated out the start this season here. There's a weird sort of feeling around Man City. I talked about it a lot in videos and podcasts that it might be the last hurrah for a De Bruyne or a Pep Guardiola or maybe Bernardo Silva moving on. It feels like it's sort of the last dance type vibe and they're really, really focused on minute one here. I think it's going to carry over this game here. Man City at home has become probably one of the toughest places in world football to go play football. Not because of the atmosphere, just because of how quickly they get on top of teams and they batter teams consistently. And I see this being another one of those really ugly scorelines. Brentford can trial they won. They're going to need a world-class managerial performance from Thomas Frank to somehow not concede. But I think with this side, with the form Haaland in Doku, even Savinho, and the attacking midfielders they've got, I think Man City blow this game out the water. Man City 5, Brentford 0 for me. I think it's going to be a really, really ugly game for Brentford. Our next game sees Aston Villa take on Everton in a game that Everton need to bounce back. We'll start Aston Villa, an impressive enough performance, another road 2-1 win against Leicester City. But I said earlier they were far from impressive versus Leicester. They had moments where they definitely looked the second best team in the park, but I guess important enough for them they get over the line. And they've got a lot of injuries to deal with. Ollie Watkins looks like he'll miss. Also Leon Bailey. They're still lacking Matty Cash at fullback as well. So it's going to be a fair bit of rotation this side here. And there's going to be a few new faces involved. I think Ross Barkley and Ramsey might get a start, or either one of them might get a start in this game here to try and fill in those holes here. But it's going to be a real different side for Aston Villa. So you look to the guys like John McGinn, Morgan Rogers, and John Duran, these sort of players, attacking players. Can they get the job done in the absence of some of their key players, especially Leon Bailey and Ollie Watkins, who were basically single-handedly their attack last season? So can these players come in and fill that void and fill that hole and play a real solid 90-minute performance? I feel like Aston Villa's season has sort of not really got underway. They've tiptoed around the start of the season. 2 uncomfortable away wins that were far from their best, beaten at home well and truly by Arsenal. I think this is where they start the season off against a really poor Everton side. Get at them early, get that Villa Park crowd behind you and get your first home win for the season. And I think it's going to be one in the midfield area. I think Idrissa Gueye and Timo Benham were better versus Bournemouth, but we saw what happens. They get so easily bypassed the Everton side. The midfield is so hollow and so weak, and that defensive identity that Everton have under Sean Dyche just isn't there. Tarkowski, Pickford, Keane, Coleman, Mikalenko, all really subpar for me. And under a Sean Dyche system, these defenders have to be your best players, and they're just simply not good enough. I think Everton this season is a basket case going to fall apart. They can see they allowed the quickest turnaround or latest turnaround in Premier League history after the side was 2-0 up versus Bournemouth. And the ease of the goals, getting at the back post unmarked, or easy runs in behind, or bypassing the midfield, goes to show you how hollow and how defensively unstable this side is. And I think Villa will absolutely pounce on this game here, especially at Villa Park. I've got Villa winning this game 3-0. Too much quality, too much danger, despite a lot of players missing. I think Unai Emery wants his side to get kicked off for the season with the Champions League just around the corner. So I've got them winning this game quite easily, 3-0. We go back to the South Coast as Bournemouth take on Chelsea in what could be a really intriguing game. Andoni Iraola's side obviously making that fantastic turnaround to beat Everton 3-2 with those 2 late goals in stoppage time. But again, another side, Bournemouth, similar to Crystal Palace, did so well last season but haven't quite clicked to start season 24-25. Obviously, Ivan Nilsson comes in up top and hasn't really stamped his mark yet in the Premier League. But I think once again for Bournemouth, like there's a lot of games, it's going to be what can the likes of Kluivert, Tavernier and Semenyo do? These real dynamic front three that sit in behind the centre forward. Their rotational position, they're really smart on the ball. And you saw when that game turned around, it was Semenyo, it was the Kluiverts that were making things happen. These 3 behind the central striker, I think are pivotal to Bournemouth style of football, especially at home where they get on top of teams. It's these players that get those goals in clumps and can turn a game on its head, and when they're not playing well, can get a counter-attack and make things happen. So I feel like these 3 in behind Ivan Nilsson up top are going to be really pivotal versus Chelsea, who have a very vulnerable defence in themselves. We've seen how many goals and chances they can concede, and I think if you're Bournemouth, employ a similar game style to what Crystal Palace did, just at the current point in time when your team's a little bit unbalanced, not quite at the races yet. Sit in, absorb some pressure. Chelsea are not as clinical as many teams are in front of goal. And then when you get the opportunity, use your pace, use your creative players, and get at them on the counter-attack and take your own chances. Because I can easily see Bournemouth getting a win in this game here. You look at Chelsea, come off that disappointing 1-1 draw to Crystal Palace. Mixed start to the season, but their signs there. Jackson, Neto, Palmer, Madueke, all really, really good performances, but missed some massive chances in that game there. And I just think if this team becomes more clinical, they start to click a little bit more. They put 4 or 5 past teams that we saw them do against Wolves in match day 2. I think another really crucial part of this side is Moses Caicedo in midfield as well, being really consistent across the opening 3 matches. And I really like how Cook and Christie play the midfield for Bournemouth, especially the vitality there as well. So it's going to be really important that Caicedo gets in there, breaks the game up, makes it uncomfortable for Bournemouth, and limits Bournemouth's ability to play quickly through the lines into the centre of the park. I think he'll hold the key for Chelsea if he can get control of that midfield and really slow down Bournemouth's ability to play to the middle of the park. Chelsea go a long way to winning this game of football. I think it's going to be a bit of a scrap. I think Chelsea's quality and overwhelming talent will get them over the line in this game here. I've got a Chelsea 2-1 victory happening. I think Bournemouth have really taken to Chelsea at the start of this game, but as the game goes on, the quality will come to show, and the Palmer Madueke goals for me will get Chelsea over the line. Our penultimate game is the big one from the weekend, the North London derby. It is Tottenham Hotspur hosting Arsenal in what is going to be a really intriguing game then, because we know the problems Arsenal have with suspension and injury. It's Spurs' big opportunity. They should have had 9 points already this season. They only have 4. They've missed some massive chances, especially in that 2-1 loss to Newcastle. Wilson Odobert missing huge chances. Kulusevski getting in danger spots and missing opportunities. They're getting there at will. They just can't find the back of the net. And I don't know if Dom Solanke, I don't think he's quite available for this game here, but they need some more clinical edge in the final third. I think it's going to come down to the skipper, Heung-min Son. Can he take an early chance? Can he get Spurs off to a quick start? Because I think for Spurs, 1, it's being clinical in this game here, but 2, it's get off to a quick start, catch Arsenal off guard a little bit, because in this return fixture last season, Arsenal got off to a great start, got that early goal from a corner, and the game was basically done by then because Spurs couldn't make the ground up. I think for Spurs, if you want to get anything out of this game, start the game strong, get at an Arsenal side that's going to be a little bit vulnerable initially. Obviously, no Declan Rice, massive hole in midfield, and obviously Martin Odegaard with a massive injury as well. So I think they're going to still be solid defensively, Arsenal. The 1-1 draw versus Brighton, we saw playing with one man less, they're still really, really defensively solid. But You're missing Declan Rice, missing that cog in front of the back two centre backs. You're going to see a bit of vulnerability early in this game here. So it's going to be down to what manager adjusts quicker and what side can adapt quicker as well. Can Spurs get that first goal, or do Arsenal get the first goal? Because if Arsenal get the first goal, I think they cruise this game. They grind it out, they get the result. But if Spurs get the first goal, I think we get a real open back and forth type affair. And that's why I see this game going. I think for Arsenal, Jorginho jumps into this midfield here, and I think he'll be pivotal. Can he obviously not do what Declan Rice does, but sort of fill in that mould? Can he control the pace, break the game up, start the play from a deep line position, and get the Spurs team on the back foot? Because as much as Spurs have been really good attacking and missed some big chances, they've also conceded a fair chunk of opportunities and conceded a fair chunk of goals as well. So really, really important for Jorginho. Break the game up and get your team going forward. Get at this really vulnerable Spurs back line, because Kai Havertz and Bukayo Saka are in great form. They're going to find the back of the net, but you've got to give them opportunities to do so. With that being said, I think it's going to be a crazy sort of back and forth type of affair. Which midfield can gain control? Which defence is more solid? It's going to be a real massive question mark, because both sides are questionable at this current point in time. Spurs, their ability to finish in front of goal. Spurs' balance over the park and their defensive solidity. Then you've got Arsenal. Are they going to be as defensively solid without Rice there? How do they create without Martin Odegaard, a captain there? A lot of questions to be asked. With that being said, I've gone with a crazy game. I'm going with a 2-2 draw. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think Spurs score first, Arsenal hit with two back, and then Spurs with a late equaliser. I think it's going to be one of the great games this weekend. It's going to be really entertaining from start to finish. That brings us to our final game of the weekend. Wolves host Newcastle United. Obviously, Wolves come off a really fantastic 1-1 draw in the last time out, away at Nottingham Forest, making the most of limited attacking opportunities, and you expect to have to do a very similar thing yet again. You look at the likes of Lamina, João Gomez in midfield, and Matheus Cunha at that sort of number 10 position. These central attacking, smart, tricky players are going to be the key players yet again. Can these guys make the most limited chances they'll get? Can these midfielders win the ball back and get Wolves going forward? Because I feel like it's going to be one-way traffic. This Newcastle side is very talented. They are a bit out of form. They got lucky versus Spurs, but they're still a really, really solid side. And their defensive shortcomings will not really be exposed in this game here, because Wolves aren't going to be on the front foot consistently. I think it's a chance for Newcastle to kick their season off and get alive and start the season off on the right foot here in match day 4. I think Tonali, Joe Linton, alongside Bruno Guimaraes and that midfield three there, they're going to be pivotal. Prevent the Wolves' counter-attack and then go and start the attack and create the attack for your side going forward as well. And then you've got a real dynamic in our front three. Isak down the middle, Barnes on the left, Gordon off the right. It's a dynamic front three. It's an aggressive front three. It's a dribbling, direct nature. They're all aiming to find the back of the net. I think it'll be too much for Wolves to handle. I think there's a chance to get at Newcastle here if you're Wolves on the counter-attack, and if you can stay solid enough defensively. But I just think this team is just not good enough right now. It hasn't got the qualities to keep up with the Newcastle side. I think they come here and, as I said, get their season underway, get a big win, get a statement win, and try and push on to a really successful season here. I've got Newcastle win this game 2-0, controlling the game and putting together one of their best performances in what we've seen in a very long time. With that being said, ladies and gents, that brings this prediction video for match week 4 to an end for the Premier League. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What's your favourite game for the weekend? Who's the biggest game changer in terms of a player? And what's your predictions for the weekend's action? Let me know what you think I've got wrong and right in the comment section down below. If you're new to the channel, guys, please smash a like on it. Subscribe to the Players Zone channel for podcasts, prediction videos, reaction videos, all things covering the world of football. And that being said, ladies and gents, I hope you have a great day today. Enjoy the upcoming weekend's football action, and I'll see you guys on the video very, very soon. Till next time, guys. See you later.